You are listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on all podcast platforms everywhere. Good day, everybody, and welcome to another podcast of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. My name is Russ, and I am the host of this show, and today we are going to be talking about CPTSD. And specifically, we are going to be talking about denial and ultimately acceptance of having CPTSD. It is something that is a traumatic situation, and it is a trauma-based disability that people who suffer from it, from repeated childhood abuse, whether it's physical or verbal abuse, and it is something that we do need to take care of. And the first thing, obviously, is accepting the fact that we have the condition. But the problem is for many people is they tend to deny the fact that they have it. And so today I'm going to discuss the difficulties of denying to yourself that you suffer from CPTSD and ultimately acceptance of it. So when we are first diagnosed or first have the possibility to presented to us that we suffer from complex post-traumatic stress disorder, many of us have a problem where we don't necessarily accept that this is happening to us. We say things like, I don't have trauma, what happening to me isn't trauma, or you could say something like, trauma isn't something horrific, I should have been able to cope with it, it's not sad, I'm not upset. So there's far other ones that people say. Admitting trauma basically means other people have to look at themselves. The denial of trauma absolves everyone of their own feelings, having the strength to say, actually, you know what, this happened and this has contributed to where I am today. It is the hardest thing that many sufferers will have to do in their lives. And having the strength to say this is yours and your own. You have to own those feelings, and which will mean others have to step back and own their own feelings. It's often, your opinion goes against everyone closest to you. So admitting that you're suffering does not mean that you are blaming anybody, and then trauma's reality does not mean that someone must be responsible. And quite frankly, the nature of getting better is to look internally and to accept that trauma is a subjective experience as opposed to objective facts of what happened. So when I think it was about nearly 2 years ago now, was informed and given this the possibility and the likelihood that I was suffering from CPTSD, I had a very difficult time accepting it. Like, the idea of it in my mind was there, and I thought, yeah, okay, I guess there's some explanation as to why I'm feeling this way or why I'm having these child parts get triggered and having a flashback. But actually realizing the severity of it, how complex it could be, and how long it's going to take to do the work and how much work is involved, in order to start healing yourself and feeling better, and at some point minimizing the amount of flashbacks that you experience due to your traumatic events from your past. I constantly was thinking that one session with my therapist, or a couple sessions over a month or two, would be like a big experience and that things would get better. And then when my girlfriend would, bring up that this is something that's going to take a lot of effort, or that your parts are being triggered and you're blended with your parts, I wasn't taking it really seriously. And to be frank, I was denying the fact that I really was suffering severely from this disability, and wasn't taking the whole idea of the work that's involved that serious. And it took a long time. Like, I went to therapy and I did my work. Well, I did work. I don't think I necessarily did the work as well as I could have in the past. And the results that would have probably come from the work would have been quicker and less suffering today if I had done the work. But that was all due to ultimately the denial that I was suffering from it, or the severity of it. And I feel very lucky and very fortunate that I had a girlfriend who was understanding to the point that I didn't realize, and I truly didn't understand just how difficult and how complex dealing with this CPTSD could be. And thankfully she stuck around and didn't leave, and has supported me throughout all this. It has been hard. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm feeling much better, and I'm having way less triggers, and when I do get triggered, the severity and the problems that come with it are not as bad as they used to be when it first started. But the honest truth is that it's going to take a long time to get any serious results. Now, I remember discussing with my therapist months ago, repeatedly, like I would see him about once a month. Since July of this year, I have been seeing him every 2 weeks, and the progress that I've been making has been very immense. And I remember my girlfriend and my therapist, and even my naturopath, who believes in this stuff and has some information and knowledge about it, were all telling me how amazing I was doing, and how fast I was progressing, and how much information I was understanding and learning. But at the same time, that was clouding my reality and the ability to truly understand just what this is. Like, I would take the compliments and incorrectly turn it into thinking that I'm getting so much better. I'm doing well enough that in my brain, or in my mind, I believed that I wasn't going to have more triggers, or that I was going to be so much better and everything was going to be just fine. And then a week later, or a couple days later, which often occurred, I would get triggered again, and I'd be so blended with my parts that I would do ridiculous things. I'd say ridiculous things. My child parts would be going crazy and acting up and taking over fully. And then once I finally was able to get control and unblend so that I could be the adult again, I would be so upset at myself. I'd be like angry and frustrated and feeling like a victim and getting very upset and like feeling so sad and so defeated, and just like saying out loud to my girlfriend and my therapist, and then thinking to myself, I don't understand, why is this happening? I've been doing the work, I've been processing, I'm realizing that I have this CPTSD, but I don't feel like I'm getting better. And they would tell me, you're not facing this right. You're not accepting the fact that this is going to be a difficult, task. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. And I would hear it, but honestly, in my mind, I really wasn't accepting it. Like, I was still in denial. Now, I don't want to confuse this kind of denial with like literally someone flat out denying that they even have it. Like, there are different levels of denial, and like I I don't think I ever said, or at least that I can recall in the 2 years and some that I've since known about this, I don't think I've ever said out loud that I don't have it. I don't believe it. This isn't me. There's got to be something else going on. Instead, I was going, sitting there going, this explains this, that's why I feel the way I do. That's why I'm having so many problems. And that was the part that I was accepting and believing. It's just, I was in denial of just how complicated this can be and just how much work is involved in order to get it to the point where you do see true results. And my girlfriend and my therapist were both saying that it can, if you do the work and you come every 2 weeks and you come in and do all the processing with me, that's the therapist talking, that it can take 5 years to 10 years just to get any real progress and notice a difference. And my fortunate luck is that I have a girlfriend who personally is dealing with CPTSD, and so I get to ask questions, discuss it, do processing, get assistance with my processing with her, and then on top of it, I get to talk to my therapist. So I have made a great deal of progress in an unusual amount of time. Like, I think like I said, it's been 2 years, and the amount of progress that I have made is incredible. Everybody is extremely impressed and very fascinated. Maybe not fascinated, that's probably the wrong word, excuse me, but they're very happy that I'm making quick progress in the amount of time. But throughout a lot of that, I was not fully accepting the fact that it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to be hard and there's going to be many setbacks. And also understanding that when you are processing, you're not always going to get through to your parts. Like, first things first is that the parts have to trust you, and that one processing session with your part or parts isn't going to fix it. You're not going to come out of it going, wow, I feel so great, and then you're not going to see where your parts don't ever come back and don't get triggered and don't take over. That's not the case. Like, I remember she was telling me how many different times, like, it's going to take multiple sessions of processing with your parts over a period of time to get any real progress. And I wasn't really accepting it. Like, I would say out loud, yeah, I understand. Okay, like, I'd say the typical things, but I wasn't really taking it in. And when I mean taking it in, you know, making an effort, like remembering each day, multiple times a day, to sit down with my child parts and connect with them and listen to their concerns, ask them how they're doing, right? Like sit down and say, hey, hi parts, how you doing? Go through each individual part and listen to their concerns, see how they're feeling, uh, get an update, have they been experiencing anything like any kind of flashbacks today, um, feeling their emotions, seeing what they're going through, and then assuming that they are trusting you and that they're willing to listen to you, then you can do a proper update. And you have to do this multiple times a day. And I have to admit, I wasn't doing all that I need to do. And it wasn't because I didn't believe it or didn't want to do the work. I was, in a subconscious manner, not truly accepting that I had this disability and that I had this mental problem or this disorder that was affecting me throughout my day. Like going through work and thinking, "Oh, I'm fine." Like I'm not suffering from any flashbacks during work. I'm okay. I'm not having any issues. I was in denial, like straight outright denial. And my girlfriend just really wasn't believing me. Like she wouldn't necessarily fight about it, but she wasn't believing me. And I think I went months through months where that's what was happening. And then I finally, whether it was just through sitting down and truly understanding and listening, or just through multiple times talking through to my therapist and actually sitting down and doing the work and seeing the the difference that would occur after doing a true processing with my parts, then I finally started to go, you know, I guess I am suffering flashbacks, and I am getting triggered during work. And ultimately, it's affecting my ability to do my job. It's also affecting my ability to have any kind of friendships and to, like, out in the real world, I'm getting triggered. Like, I don't even realize what's going on. And I finally did. And after that, like, accepting it has been so much easier. Like, it takes time. And I'm sure many of you have had this issue. You go through the therapist telling you, okay, you suffer from CPTSD. You're gonna have to do, like, come every couple weeks and do some work. And you sit there and you go, like, I feel broken. Like, I can't believe this is me. Like, why am I the one that has to deal with this? And you go daily, feeling incomplete, and you're feeling bad, and you're denying it because you're going, this can't be true. This doesn't make sense. And eventually, when you start to see the work and you start to see how it actually is improving your life, that it does make a big difference. I guess I'm being a stubborn person like I am naturally. It was one of those things that I had to face by myself. It wasn't going to take anybody convincing me. No amount of pressure and pushing and showing me, slides or videos online was going to make any difference. I had to ultimately accept it and realize that it's me that's going to have to see it for what it is and accept the truth. So now that, I've gotten that far, the ability to see what is happening, to sit down and unblend, to be the adult instead of having the child parts in control, and then doing processing, listening to the parts and processing and hoping you can update them so that they'll feel less inclined to get triggered, and know that the adult is safe and is in real time okay, it's easier. It's not going to be a simple thing. Like, you're not going to sit down and in 5 minutes go, "Hey, parts, how's it go?" "Good," and then get to the stage where, "Are you all good?" "Yeah, okay," and then you're done. And then you go, "Whoa, what a difference!" And then you walk like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, or sorry, Staying Alive, and walking around with a strut, thinking, "Oh, I am cured, I am great, everything's good," and not having any flashbacks. You're kidding yourself. You are ultimately kidding yourself. So it takes a lot of work, and the biggest step ultimately in healing yourself and getting to feeling better and accepting this is, acceptance of the fact that you have CPTSD. It's quite enlightening and very freeing when you finally are able to have a seat, think about it all, and say, "Yeah, this is going to take a lot of work. This isn't going to be an easy thing to heal." And you see the importance of it, and you sit there and you go, "Hey, I think this is going to go well. I think I'm going to finally get some progress done. I'm going to update these parts. I'm going to feel better, and I'm going to have less occurrences of flashbacks, and I'm going to be able to live a happier, more productive life." If you do the work and you go see your therapist and you take it seriously and you get years and years of updating and processing done, there is a definite possibility that you can heal yourself and that you won't experience flashbacks anymore, and things out in the real world that used to trigger you or would cause triggers and cause you to be blended with child parts could honestly go away and never occur anymore. But there's a much, much better chance that through the hard work with your therapist or with a loved one, and ultimately doing the work yourself on a daily basis multiple times, is 9 out of 10 times you're not likely going to have a trigger, and you're likely not going to experience a flashback. And if you do happen to experience one, you'll have all the experience and the know-how to ultimately deal with it with minimal problems and be able to unblend and feel better in a short period of time, and only maybe experience it once every so often, instead of when you're new to it, experiencing it daily. And every little thing that happens that decides to trigger you, it takes time and it takes a lot of work to get there. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. I know that it's a hard thing to deal with. Like, my time in the last 2 years since I've been diagnosed with CPTSD has been very difficult. It's put a lot of stress on not only myself, but my girlfriend. She loves me very much and she supports me through all this and knows what it takes and has helped me throughout the time. But ultimately, we have learned and determined that I need to not really involve her when it comes to processing. Like, the only person who's going to make any work and have anything work and get anywhere is yourself. Having someone do the processing for you isn't going to make it any better, any faster. You have to do the work. And ultimately, like we've discussed already in this episode, acceptance of having CPTSD is the ultimate key here. Because without accepting the fact that you have this condition, you're not going to heal. It will take time. some of you, I'm sure, who have been suffering from CPTSD for many years have already gone through this, but it's a difficult thing to do. And we all know that it's something that has to be worked on repeatedly. And once you realize that this is the truth and that, you know, you're not being played, there isn't something else that's happening, you will be able to finally get a little further in to the work that you're doing, and then you'll feel better. You know, like, acceptance is huge. It's not just in processing or dealing with therapy. Acceptance is a big deal throughout life, of many different topics and many different problems that come up. If all we ever do is deny that there is a problem, you're only fooling yourself. You know, nobody else is going to get fooled and go, yeah, you're right. You don't have a problem. You're okay. That doesn't do any good. Acceptance is really the key to everything. And especially when it comes to dealing with CPTSD, something that is very important to do in order to feel better and ultimately live a happier life and not have to lose relationships or, you know, possible strain on family and well, you know, I'm not going to go there of the possibilities that can happen when you suffer from CPTSD and refuse to accept that you have it. It is a tough thing. We all go through it, and we all go through the stages, and it is a difficult thing to deal with when we're, you know, trying to heal ourselves. I could say so much about this. Like, there's going to be a lot of different things and subjects and topics to talk about regarding CPTSD throughout this series. And some of them are going to be very difficult to talk about. And maybe there'll be some fun ones, you know, like I do hope to do some interviews with some people who can lend their own point of view and help when it comes to what to do and how to get help, and some tricks and suggestions on making this easier on everybody. You know, like, I hope to be doing that sort of thing in the near future. But the bottom line with CPTSD is, if we can see for ourselves as the adult that the only way to get better is by seeing a therapist, being open-minded to the possibilities out there that they offer you, and not getting down on yourself. You know, if you have a flashback and you get triggered and you are blended with your child parts, it's okay. Like, yeah, sure, it hurts and it feels horrible, and you might hurt somebody inadvertently because of it, but ultimately you're not alone. Like, you're going to have a therapist to help you. You're going to have loved ones. If they are caring and supportive and they love you, they're going to be there for you, and they're going to accept you for who you are. They're not going to care. It might cause a bit of strain and some stress for them and ultimately for yourself, but you can get through this, and it can be good, and you will, through the hard work, get better. We're all gonna be okay. We just have to accept that this is real and that we can heal ourselves. So to wrap it up, denial is a big deal. You know, there's different ways that people can deny to themselves and to people that they love and to their therapists that they don't believe that they have CPTSD. It is a big problem, and it can get in the way of the process of healing yourself. But if you are able to sit down and think about it and talk to people who suffer from CPTSD, or talk to therapists and discuss your concerns, you can ultimately accept the facts and, come to terms with it. It's the fastest way to get to that next step of healing yourself and feeling better. I can do it. It's hard. There are days where I feel like I don't want to do anything, but ultimately, I do know that the only way to heal and to get better and to move forward in life is to do the work. Take it seriously and push through. You're going to have bad days. I do. Everybody does. But ultimately, it will be okay. All right, everybody. I will be back next Saturday with another episode on CPTSD. It should be a good one. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know. You can go to my website, livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. Leave me a message. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from anyone out there. Don't be shy. Give me a message. I'd love to make some new friends, and we can, learn and heal together. All right, everybody. Until then, have a great week. Bye.